Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, the #1 source for proven solutions to all your marketing challenges.
Welcome aboard another episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast, where we help you navigate the high seas of business growth with proven strategies and marketing tools that really work. I'm your host, Captain Marco, chartering the course to help you attract more leads, close more sales, and scale your business. Today, we've got a world-class navigator of the consumer mind. Joining us, Dr. Nika Kabiri. Nika has spent over 25 years mapping out the complex waters of decision-making, and for the last 15 years, she's been guiding some of the world's biggest brands like Amazon, Google, Microsoft, PepsiCo through the tricky currents of consumer insights. Now, here's where the winds really change. Nika believes we've been steering in the wrong direction when it comes to marketing messaging. The old debate, is it emotional versus functional? She says it's both and neither at the same time. She just released a white paper that throws overboard the traditional thinking and shows us why decision science is the true compass marketers need. So if you're ready to set sail into uncharted territory and discover how to truly influence your customers, drop anchor right now and take some notes, because Nika is here on board and she's going to share all kinds of stuff down our new voyage. Nika, say hello to the show.
Hi. Thank you for having me. It's really good. I love your sailing analogies, or your little metaphors. Actually, they're riveting. I'm so fascinated by your being a sailor. I think that's such a fascinating thing to do.
Thank you. Yeah, I like boating. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I have currently in the backyard a choice of a 50-foot Ocean Alexander to take out a big trawler, and or a 36-foot Catalina sailboat. So between the two, I get out there and have some fun.
Amazing.
Cool. So how did you get into the area that you're in now and end up working with brands like Amazon, Google, and what have you? Tell us, who is Nika and what is your mission?
Yeah. So nothing I do was ever planned. Like I didn't wake up one day as a kid and decide to do decision science. I was really fascinated by human behavior and actually social behavior. So I went to graduate school for sociology and just happened to fall under the mentorship of some of the biggest minds in rational choice theory at the time. And so I started studying like how economic models of decision making could be applied to explain sociological phenomenon, anything from protests and revolutions to just, social behavior, the way we interact with each other, and also how our independent decisions can together independently create these like outcomes, cultural changes, social trends, and how our social environments kind of constrain the decisions we make. And so in marketing, consumers are often very autonomous in their decision making. So to really understand how they think is important. And that's sort of where my work comes in. I kind of made that transition from being an academic to marketing and consumer behavior because it was just such a natural thing. And
so you've got a psychology background and what have you, that
sociology. Yeah.
Sociology.
And social psychology is a huge part of that too, right? How do we think in certain ways that create these like outcomes for us all around us? I think it's obvious when you think about it.
Yeah, my wife's got a background in psychology and in therapy and what have you, and if she's always right. So son of a gun, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
gonna
staying
have to.
out of that one. I'm not gonna get involved.
Right. So I'm gonna have to give you some real thought insight here on what you're bringing to the table, because you're probably right.
Oh gosh. See, I have to start by saying, the number one rule in decision science is you have to have a little bit of healthy self-doubt, because thinking you're right when you're not is kind of biased. So I'm going to try my best to just stop you. If you think I'm right, I'm going to say, wait a minute.
Well, you never know. Okay. Well, so we'll always leave room for questioning the science. So how did you transition then from the academic science world into the consumer insights and marketing? What What kind of made that switch in your mind?
It was just one of those things where I knew I didn't want to do academics. I wanted to do research. I loved to research. I loved to write. I loved to learn new things, but I didn't want to be in the academic world. There wasn't a lot of real world impact there. And so through my advisor who knew somebody said, there could be a spot for you to do research on how people purchase things and the decisions they make in buying stuff. And companies will, they'll spend a lot of money to understand what makes a consumer mind tick, because that's what, feeds the bottom line at the end of the day. And so I tried it out, and it was just such a natural fit. I just it felt like I'd been doing it my whole life.
Cool.
So
So, I mean, we've heard marketers over the years kind of argue whether messaging should be pulling on the emotional strings or more on the functional. Your research has shown it's the wrong debate. Can you explain what you mean by that?
yeah, so it is, I mean, anyone who works in brand positioning or marketing messaging knows that there's this constant like question, should we be messaging an emotional benefits, or should we be messaging functional benefits? Should we, where should we fit? I think really good marketers know you have to do a little of both, that there's got to be some, functional promises and some emotional benefits layered on top. But it's a lot more complex than that. It kind of that kind of functional versus emotional is rooted in the idea that people are either rational or they're not, right? Like, and for the most part, the assumption is we're irrational, we're not rational. But that's kind of an outdated, and it's kind of persistent but outdated way of thinking about it, because in the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, there's been a ton of research in psychology, in behavioral economics, that has pointed out that people try to be rational. They're not really thinking with their heart. They're not being impulsive. They try to be rational, but then they have all of these cognitive biases that they're unaware of that keep their decisions from being truly rational. So that's where I think marketing should be really focusing a lot on. And a lot of marketers are. I mean, it's not a new thing to say, hey, you should pay attention to behavioral economics. Everyone is doing this. But I think what's missing is then in doing research on consumers, that layer has been kind of less, I don't know, robust, I suppose. Like really trying to dig into how consumers are making their choices rather than what they like, what they do. I mean, that's just skimming the surface.
Yeah, this is as much of a marketer as I would say I am. We're kind of getting into areas that I don't really dig deep very often. What is decision science exactly, and how can it give marketers an edge that the emotional functional messaging framework can't?
Right. So decision science is generally, it's got two parts to it, the way that I define it. One is the study of how people actually make decisions, which is kind of the fun part, because we make decisions badly a lot of times, like we mess up, and understanding like those cognitive fallacies and the biases and the social influences that cause us to do these dumb things, like wear skinny jeans when they look awful on us just because it's a trend, or things like that. It's just kind of that sort of it part of it. And then there's also this decision analysis part, which is how should we be making decisions? What is the right framework to employ, or process to employ, when you're choosing what you need to do? So I spend my time studying how consumers actually make decisions, like where things go wrong. Here's a great example that has to do with, say, promotions, which is something that you do, right, Marco? Like you work in, what is the right promotion? What's the right deal? What are these right incentives that companies can use? So one thing that's a huge challenge for businesses, which they don't even recognize, is overcoming consumer inertia. So consumers do what they do because they've done it before. Like there's a lot of inertia, there's a lot of routine. This is different than preferring the status quo. You prefer the status quo, consciously, but this is just, I'm kind of just going with things, and I don't really want to try this other product. I don't really want to think about these other things. I just want life to be easy, and it's working, and I'm just going with the flow. What a promotion does is it lowers the risk in trying this new thing. It makes that decision a little bit easier. And so the right promotion is really where the research comes in. Like, what is your category? who are your consumers? What do they really want? What are their lives like? What are they looking for? And then tailoring that incentive, the size of the incentive, how long you offer the incentive, whether you offer it as a kind of a flash deal and you pressure them, or you use reverse FOMO and say, hey, this incentive is here, it'll be here for, I mean, there are lots of, as you know, a million different ways to kind of do this thing. If you don't understand the way that your consumers react to that, how are you going to choose the right way or the right incentive to offer? Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you're talking my language now about
Yeah.
incentives, how to incentivize, when to incentivize. Is the incentive too big for the offer? Does it sound too good to be true versus, an incentive that is, it makes sense for the price point that you're offering, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of variables that need to think about, and then, as you said, creating this scarcity and urgency in the incentive, or the FOMO, which people fear of. What does that stand for again? I just lost. I got a
Missing out.
brain. Yeah, fear of missing out. Thank you. I had,
Yeah.
for a minute there, it was just like gone from my brain.
Yeah.
um, what would you say are some of the most common mistakes you see businesses make when trying to influence their customers' decisions?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll stick to like this topic area of promotions too, because it's kind of interesting here. I think one of the things that a lot of people do when they offer discounts or promotions is they don't really take into account the impact that would have on their brand. I think a lot of companies devalue themselves by offering the wrong kind of promotion. They try to lower the price so dramatically so that, if you're a luxury brand, or that you're a high, an upmarket brand, and then you suddenly offer a promotion that pulls you into mid-market or lower down that spectrum, then you can start to look or appeal a little bit like you're cheaper than you really are. Now, that's not always the case, but sometimes that could have an impact. And that's where, again, research comes in. You could do survey research or interviews to understand, like, how would a consumer understand what your brand stands for if it's suddenly making things so cheap for us for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So, that's a big mistake. I don't know if you've seen that a lot happen in the work that you do.
Absolutely. I think the biggest mistake too many entrepreneurs make is discounting, the promos based on a discount versus adding value of some sort, which is a
100%.
perfect segue to hear from our sponsor, Marketing Boost. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
You just heard from marketingboost.com, of course, our main sponsor. Folks, we're talking about incentives. We're talking about how to position your offers and whether to be discounting or not. If you're new to us, marketingboost.com is the most incredibly affordable way that you can provide the wow, surprise, and delight factor for your clients to reward them with perks and incentives, or enhance your call to action with a added value incentive bonus instead of discounts. Check out marketingboost.com. There's no way you can go wrong with checking us out. We're most affordable way, and you can give yourself some of these incentives to check us out first before you use them with your clients. Go to marketingboost.com and get a free trial. We're back here live talking with Nika about again, how to influence your client with the right strategies. Nika, back to you. Kind of sorry for the interruption there on Marketing Boost, but it's perfect fit for our conversation on adding value versus discounting. Does that make sense to you? Do you believe in? Is that something you guys
Absolutely.
preach as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's there's so many, and this is where decision science is really useful, because there are so many things that a consumer is thinking about simultaneously as they are deciding whether or not to purchase from your company or what to purchase from your brand. Price is one. And I have time and again seen people on a budget, like really, really on a budget, being willing to spend a little bit more for something that will make their lives that much easier. I've seen people do the math and realize if they spend a little bit more on a quality product rather than less on a lower quality product, that quality product can last them longer and actually save them more. Like I've seen people do that math. Consumers aren't, they're savvy. So they know what value means. They will tell me time and again in research that I do, it's not just the price, it's what I get for that price. And I think this leads to another big mistake that companies make is they make a lot of assumptions around that value. They make a lot of assumptions around what that price point should be for that value. They leave money on the table sometimes, and sometimes, they just run with things and that's their brains making bad decisions themselves. So you really got to slow down, talk to an expert, do the research. I wonder, Marco, like how many of your clients actually ask you for really solid advice on what to do and listen? I
Not
mean,
many.
I mean,
No, they're not actually asking for raising their hand, asking for help. Of course, our service is, by the way, just so affordable. We're at $37 a month to get access to
oh,
our
wow.
rewards, perks, and incentives. So it's crazily affordable. We own the company that fulfills all of the travel certificates on the back end. So we make
Gotcha.
money when people travel as well as the subscription. So we don't
Gotcha.
need to make it. We make it very affordable for our business owners that use us. At that price point, we're really not we're not here coaching them and holding their
Gotcha.
hand along the
Gotcha.
way with all kinds of we leave that up to other experts like you. So
That makes sense. So we would be a great like team if a company ever decided to work with both of us, because I think a lot of businesses do rush into those decisions about promotions, what to offer without thinking about the drawbacks, the downsides, or maybe even just they're too risk averse. Like they think they have to go lower than they do, and then they leave a lot of money on the table,
yeah, it's true. A big mistake people because they look at their competitors,
Mhm.
and it turns into a race to the bottom as everybody
Yes.
starts to, well, they just ran a promo for $7.99 and ours is $9.99 for a similar product. Let's lower the price and match them, or worse, let's go cheaper. And then they go cheaper, and before somebody else does, and it's just a race to the bottom. I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is 10% discount. Let's say, just to do the math here, let's say you're selling $1,000 product, you have a 20% net profit at the end of the day after all your expenses. So you made $200 profit on $1,000 product, let's suppose. You drop 10% discount. Well, you just gave up. Now you're selling it for 900. Still have a lot of the same costs of acquisition and marketing and payroll and everything else. Now you're making $100 instead of $200 on your net profit. You gave up 50% of your net profit with a 10% discount. So your math's got to be very careful when you discount, uh,
Yeah.
or else it just keeps going spiraling until you're not profitable at all. Obviously, the bigger the company, the more eyeballs are watching all of that. But when you're a small company, it's easy, or a solopreneur or what have you, really easy to make these kind of wrong mistakes. And before you know it, you can, it's hard to go up on the price once you start going down. So it's just a
Yeah.
huge mistake in a way.
And it's just basic like rules of exchange in any sort of situation. Like if you think about decisions you make in your relationships, like who to date, who to marry, who to be friends with, it's not just like the cost of what they require, right? Like what is it, how hard is it to be in a marriage, what does it require of me to be in a relationship? You can't put a value on it, right? Like like you can't put a number on the value of that. You just kind of, that you're getting something in return that's just abundant, right? And so sometimes we are willing to make huge sacrifices for the people in our lives because what we get is just so much in return. And then at other times we give very little and we get even less. It's true of brands and companies too. You want your consumers to feel like they're happy to give you more because what you're giving them is just so much, so worth it, right? You want them to feel eager to spend on you or to learn more about you and invest in you. And I think cheapening yourself sometimes by making your price go down isn't really the way to do that. If you offer them the abundance, right? I mean, one trick is just, occasional freebies. People love that. It hurts the bottom line for a short time, but it's like this abundant. Like it's supposed to be this abundant thing. People like that. It's a little bit, and I don't mean freebies like giving your products away, and I don't mean like reducing the value, but like say, offering a short time, I don't know, a coaching session or something at value, right? I don't know what the different businesses are that you serve, but you can think of ways to even like monetize those extra value points to give them more and make them willing to pay.
Absolutely. So let me
That
ask you this. Are there any simple frameworks or first steps you might recommend for a marketer, entrepreneur to start thinking more like a decision scientist?
Yeah. So the first thing to consider is what is your, priority outcome. I think in working with a lot of marketers and marketing teams, there are a lot of competing priorities within the marketing organizations that, you might work in. There might be competing priorities in your own brain. Like, is your goal to raise more awareness? Is your goal to steal share from another competitor? You can do more than one thing at once, but you can't do it all. You really have to kind of focus your efforts. I don't think a lot of marketers or marketing teams spend the thoughtful time that's necessary to nail down that objective or that end game that's most likely tied to maximizing revenue or showing value for the business. So
Hmm.
decisions are made very quickly sometimes. They're made, they're just made without a lot of information. And so slowing down and knowing like what are the one or two, major objectives. Everybody does that. Here's our goals, but like slowing it down and thinking it through. Don't rush through it. A lot of businesses that I've worked with have had these objectives and goals that either seem so outlandish or that are so not tied to any sort of real business goals, right? Like if your goal as a small company is to IPO, then your marketing goals are going to be very different than if you're looking to exit, right? If you're looking to just sell your company. So you've got to really slow down and think it through. That's the first step. And then the second step is knowing very clearly what you want to accomplish. What conditions need to be in place for that outcome to be possible? I think too often we have our goals, we know what they are, we put them over there, and then we start brainstorming like, well, what are all the things we can do right now? What are all our options? And most oftentimes all the options that come to mind aren't really tied to our outcomes. So we have to kind of work backwards from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting it. Folks, we'll be right back. We're going to come back in a moment and hear more about some case studies and stories from her Amazon, Google, General Mills experience there. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Is your business on autopilot yet? Do you have automation in place to capture, nurture, and convert prospects into clients via email, SMS, ringless voicemails, appointment setting? Get all the inbound and outbound marketing tools in one place. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on automating your business so you can make money while you sleep.
Folks, you just heard from automationbooster.com, one of the companies that I'm proud to have brought to you guys. If you're in business and you don't have a CRM system that's helping you automate everything so that every lead you generate, you are nurturing with email, texting, voicemail broadcasting, with workflows that work for you automatically, whether they joined your database at 3 in the morning or 7 a.m. Are you following up? Are you getting them on your calendar? Do you have all the reminders set up in your calendar to get them to show up on time? Are you maybe using an incentive to tie them to get them to show up for your Zoom call appointment with you or your staff? Well, if you mix Automation Booster with Marketing Boost, we give you everything you need at an incredibly low price. So check out automationbooster.com and automate your business. So my question for you, we're back with Nika. Nika, tell us about if you can, some of the, you work with some massive brands, Amazon, Google, General Mills. Can you share a specific story or two on how decision science led to a breakthrough result?
Oh gosh. I mean, a lot of the work that I do is proprietary and the results that I share are confidential. I
Oh,
can
okay.
speak,
I
so I
should have
can,
asked that in advance. I'm
yeah,
hoping
I
for a
should,
sneak
I don't
peek.
want, I don't want to say, hey, we learned, we learned that, PepsiCo, blah, blah, blah. That would be not fair to PepsiCo. They paid a lot of money for the work that I did, or General Mills, they paid a lot of work for the money that I did, but I can speak in generalities.
Please.
Um, let's see.
We'll fill in the blanks as to what brand we think it is.
Right, right, right. Um, so I think, like I talked about inertia, and I think one thing that a lot of marketers they do when they think about positioning or messaging is they think about their competitors. They do a SWOT analysis and they think about their competitive set, right? So say if you are, oh, I have a potato chip company, right? You're going to look at Lay's, you're going to look at Kettle, you're going to look at all these other brands of potato chips, and you're going to say, what can we do that's different than that? What can we offer that's unique and stands apart and seems better or more fun or more cool or more healthy, or whatever angle you want to take? Oftentimes what people don't do enough of, or what companies don't do enough of, is think about categories outside of their own or competitors that are not actual companies that do what they do. Sometimes your competitor is you're like doing nothing, right? And that's where decision science comes in, because you don't just assume that people are going to choose something. You assume they could choose nothing, and then you also assume that the way in which they make their choices isn't going to be rational or emotional. They might, for instance, be wanting a very healthy snack, and they might look to nuts and decide nuts, peanuts, whatever are healthy, and make that connection because of some mental shortcut they had in their head, right? Like it's a natural thing, or what have you. If you're a potato chip company, you could actually compete with peanuts. You could actually compete with other products if you do the research and understand what people are choosing in general, and how they're choosing it on a daily basis. Like maybe they're choosing peanuts because they want something healthy that's salty. Maybe you can offer a potato chip that doesn't have that kind of that negative, oh, it's junk food, right? A potato chip. So I don't know if that's really resonating, but that's kind of an example. Dried fruit is a great example. I've done research on this. It's you assume dried fruit is like, if you're a dried fruit company, your competitors are other dried fruit companies, but gummy bears could be a competitor. So you kind of have to look at the way that people make decisions to get at those conclusions. They're not coming at it from, I want some dried fruit. They're saying, I want something sweet. I want it to be portable. I want it to be healthy. So if that's what you're thinking about, and you're making those decisions, and then you kind of layer on top of that habit, you layer on top of that the mental shortcuts, like these assumptions, these fast thinking ways that people make choices, you start seeing why you might not be succeeding the way you think you are. You start seeing a bigger picture because you're focusing on the behavior. It's sort of like the way that criminal profilers will go to a scene of the crime and kind of think about the behavior of the criminal, as opposed to just looking at the facts. Does that make sense? Like they're looking at that behavioral part.
Yeah. Now, this might be a wild curveball at you, but in today's world, um, are corporate, CEOs often making the mistake of, for example, Ben and Jerry's CEO, I understand, recently fired because he's been stuck on being, anti-Trump and what have you. And then you look at Elon Musk with his decisions to support Trump. Nobody's buying well, I don't know how many cars they're selling or not, but
Yep.
they're certainly burning them up and trashing the dealerships and what have you. And then you've got, a few years ago, it was Bud Light with going one direction. Um, how do is that decision? I mean, obviously, it seems in many cases they're not taking science decisions very seriously when they
Yeah.
decide to be politically correct or incorrect.
It's hard to know if you don't watch, if you're not in the room as they're making those choices. Sometimes taking a stand, I think Nike did this, um, taking a stand with Colin Kaepernick actually proved to be positive for that company or positive for that brand. Like maybe the backlash was initially bad. So it's not always the case that taking a position on a social issue is a bad thing. This just goes back to what I said. What is your outcome that you want? Do you want to be a company that that is, you know, who that wants to build kind of a brand image around social issues because it will actually, you know, help your bottom line? Maybe that is the case, and you can find a way to do that. If you want to be a brand that stands for the right side of history, whichever side you might think that is, who stands on the right side of history, regardless of the bottom line, if you really feel, then if that's your objective, then those are the right decisions to make. It all really goes down to what is the ultimate objective. I think for us to assume that, you know, losing sales is a sign of bad business or bad decision making. I think what Elon Musk himself is accomplishing for himself as a multi-billionaire is, you know, he's got way more influence and he's got the potential to make way more money than his company Tesla probably ever could. It's maybe worth the hit for him. So I think it's really kind of curious when people critique him for making these decisions that hurt Tesla when we don't know what he stands to gain by having so much control in the government. I mean, he could rule us all. I mean, I would get, you know, let go of a Tesla if I could rule us all, right? So what is the outcome?
Who knows, right? He may be able to step out of Tesla as far as CEO role or whatever his role is there, and keep on doing other programs. Um, but yeah, I get your point. Obviously, he's well. I mean, here's how I look at Elon and people like Trump, for that matter. Um, they're billionaires, and I personally believe that they're doing, whether they're right or wrong, they're trying to save the U.S. dollar. We can't keep spending 36, we can't be growing this 36 trillion dollar debt and leaving this to our kids. So somebody's got to finally pull the plug on overspending and continuing to just grow the government every year after year and spending more and more and more and more. It's just not sustainable. So I think they have more to lose as multi-billionaires than the rest of us almost all combined. So if the U.S. dollar were to completely lose its value worldwide, they have more to lose than Tesla, or individually, or his entire wealth could be vanished if the dollar were to drop. So I think they have the intentions of at least trying to save the dollar for their own benefit, and while they're at it, we all benefit as well. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
Right. I mean, and this stuff is so good. It's such a great area of discussion if you're thinking about decision science, because like if the desired outcome, and I have no reason to believe it is to save the US dollar, then it's up to us as, like, say, citizens to really not jump to conclusions about why the US dollar is so weak, for instance, or why we're in so much debt. There's, I think too often we run with like memes we see on social media or something we hear even in whether it's fringe media or mainstream. We just sort of run with a conclusion, and we don't really understand, like, say, how national debt works. Why would we? We're so busy.
Yeah.
Like my day is always so full of things. Like, why would I want to stop and do research on what would solve this problem? I mean, that's why you elect people to solve it for you. But it's still on us to understand the basics so that we make the right decisions, to choose the right leaders, to make the right moves, to solve the right problems. I think what I fear is that too many, and I do this all the time because my brain moves so fast, just like everybody else's. I kind of draw conclusions that aren't really always based in like how things work. And businesses do this too. Like, they don't understand how consumers work. They don't understand how they think. They don't understand what appeals to them. And it shows up sometimes when messaging on a packaging is just all wrong, because you haven't talked to your consumers. You got to do the thinking, you got to slow down and look at the data.
How much do you think business owners need to pay attention to their clients' feedback and reviews as part of their
Mm.
decision science?
That is an excellent question because feedback can come in a lot of different forms. And I have seen CEOs jump and it's sort of like one bad review says jump and the CEO is like, how high, right? And so all of a sudden everything's swirling around like maybe 1, 3, 5 bad reviews because they just happen, like the CEO maybe just happens to read it. It's a bad day, it hits them the wrong way, and it becomes everything. And that's what we call the small n fallacy in behavioral science. You cannot assume that all consumers feel a specific way just because 1 or 2 people say they do. It's not necessarily a foregone conclusion that 1 or 2 loud negative voices reflect the opinions of all the silent voices. Most people don't say what they really feel about they don't leave reviews. That's why work like what my company does is so essential, because we actually do survey research that reaches out to all your customers or everyone in the market and gets all of that data, large numbers of people talking to us, 400, 600, 1,000, people giving their input, so that you get a very balanced idea of what's going on. Like 1 or 2 anecdotes or 1 or 2 scary stories or 1 or 2 bad experiences does not tell the whole story. You cannot react to that. So yeah, respond to consumer feedback, but make sure it's the right kind of feedback from enough consumers, obtained in an objective way.
Cool. While we're on that subject, I'm going to tell you about another product, and we're going to come right back. And I'm going to show you Nika's website, Nika's company that can help you with that deep research. But before we do that, let me tell you about trustbyreviews.com. This is a product we're launching right now. It's in beta, and I'm very excited to share this with all of you, especially those that use Marketing Boost. Trustbyreviews.com is going to help you solicit more ongoing reviews, testimonials, video reviews, and get them on a consistent, constant basis, and reward or incentivize your guests to take their honest opinion and share it on multiple third-party websites, especially when you know they're happy with 3, 4, or 5-star reviews. We're going to make it easy for them to publish that same testimonial or review on Google, on Facebook, on SiteJabber, on Trustpilot, on across multiple third-party review sites, to help Google be forced almost, when people search your brand, pull up, see all these third-party reviews coming in and lift your brand to the top. So check out trustbyreviews.com. We're the most affordable platform. Again, a very powerful platform that's going to help you generate ongoing, consistent reviews to help you build your brand. Back to Nika here. I'm going to share her website so she can talk about that. SparkConsumerInsights.com. Before you go running to type that into your browser, the links are all in the show notes below. So when we finish here, you can go and check out consumerinsights.com, rather sparkconsumerinsights.com. Tell us about your site here and the services you provide.
Yeah, so we offer various survey research, quick turn survey research tools. We do consumer profiling, we do consumer segmentation and message testing. That's kind of the tools that we have, sitting, waiting to be, turned on. It's not custom research. It's the kind of inexpensive research that gets you insights in, like, say, days.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have custom research, which is, if you want to understand something really deep about your customers, we will design the right study for you. Qualitative, which is interviews and kind of interacting with consumers, or quantitative, which is doing survey research. And then there's consulting. I mean, there are a lot of instances in which businesses have pulled me in and said, I don't need to research my customers. I just need to know why I've got like 20 clients, B2B clients, telling me every day how much they love what I'm doing, but none of them are willing to pay. Well, I can come and give you some insights without having to research them, using just what we know about human behavior, some recommendations on how to get them to really pull the trigger, whether it be FOMO or whether it be an incentive or whatever the thing might be. Decision science can help them do that. So consulting is part of that too. And if you have a team of people who want to do their own research, because you know, hiring a research team can sometimes, or an agency like mine can sometimes be cost prohibitive. We can go in and help you set up your own team, do the training, help you guys figure out, you know, what you need. Maybe you're, you know, one person on your marketing team is like, hey, I'll be the researcher. Well, we can work with them to make sure they are learning what they need to know to do it right. So we do that as well. We also
Cool.
have some online resources. We're ready to roll out some free courses. So if you want to sign up below for the upcoming courses, just, you know, share your email address, and we can let you know when courses drop. I'm in developing our first one now. So hopefully you can be the first to know.
Powerful. Cool. So guys, sparkconsumerinsights.com, click on the resources button and get on the list for free content and resources to help you figure out how your clients, you can best support your clients and get them to
Thank
become
you.
clients. um, Got another question for you here. A lot of Marketing Boost members in our community are, a lot of our listeners use travel incentives and rewards to drive action. How can decision science help them design more effective incentive campaigns? What would you have any insights on how when and how we might do that?
Yeah. So a lot of that has to do with your category, like what you offer, and also your consumers. So if you are going to offer a travel incentive, and I don't know, can you give me an example of the kind of company that might do this? I imagine, like, you know, personal
Well,
care.
what's amazing is it we've had so many success stories in all kinds of industries.
Yeah.
But let me give you some examples
Yeah. Yeah.
because most people don't get it out of the gate. They don't get Marketing Boost out of the gate. So and how these travel incentives can work for nearly any
Yeah.
company. But let's say I'm a realtor. Okay, I'm a broker and I've got a bunch of realtors, and we all struggle to get. And nowadays there's new rules in the real estate world where they can't they need to get you to sign if they want they come to an open house, for example, if they don't have a realtor assigned to them as the realtor there, you want to grab them and you want to get them signed onto under your umbrella so that you can any property they need to go search for now they need a buyer's agent. Well, one way to do that is to make sure when they're at the event, you might at the open house that you're putting on, that's now a new lead generation tool to get everybody coming into the open house to end up being exclusive to you as an agent, as a buyer's agent. So you might do what? On the countertop, when people come in to register, you might say, hey, we're giving away a 3-night getaway to Las Vegas to one of the entries today that visit this house. Please give us some accurate information about you, name, phone number, and email. You might be our lucky winner for a Las Vegas trip. Now, after the open house is closed, you've got a reason to call everybody back and say, well, you didn't win the grand prize, but we've got a $500 hotel savings card for you as our free gift, just for filling out the form earlier today. By the way, what kind of home are you looking for? Do you have a buyer's agent already? And yada, yada, yada. And now you can end up potentially locking in everybody who walked in the door. So that's just one example. Let's say I am a solar company and I've got a full blown telemarketing agency in the Philippines, and they're dialing everybody, trying to get my agents in the door to give people a quote for their solar system on their roof. Well, I might say, folks, if you'll allow our agent to come see you Tuesday afternoon, and most importantly, if you and your wife are available for the 4 o'clock appointment, we're going to reward you with a 3-night getaway in Las Vegas on us for keeping the appointment and both you and your wife being available. Whether you get the solar system installed or not, we've got a
Yeah.
3-night stay for you as our bonus. They don't include the disclaimer, it won't include airfare, food and beverage, or government taxes and fees, but we'll get you a 3-night getaway on us just for listening to our promo. Or maybe it's a $300 hotel savings card or a $100 restaurant savings voucher just to listen to give you a free quote to see if solar is a good fit for you, and on and on. I mean, we've got everything from multi-level marketers. We've got everything from car dealerships saying, hey, come on in and test drive a car and be entered to win 5 nights in Cancun. just for coming in, whether you buy the car or not, you're going to get a $500 hotel savings card, and you might win the 5 nights in Cancun on us. So come on in for a test drive. Boom. On and on and on. There's a million different ideas on how to use these incentives for different calls to action. I don't know if
Right.
that's kind of gives you
Yeah,
some
that
insight.
totally gives me that. So the decision you're trying to trigger is for them to actually sign up for this incentive, which is which requires understanding in your specific situation for your specific customers what would be the decision barriers and what would be the decision drivers. For instance, if you're a realtor of, say, high-end property, a 3-night stay in Las Vegas might not be that enticing, right? Because people who are buying, multi-million dollar homes can buy their own way to Vegas, and they don't want to sign up for something if they're going to give their info, say they're, you know, really careful about giving information away. So if you know that's the profile of your target consumer, you need to think about another way to incentivize them. Maybe a bigger incentive, maybe another way of messaging it to them. Maybe, join us in Sonoma rather than, who knows, right? So you kind of have to understand what is going to make them trigger, and what they're thinking is, and consumers are savvy these days, like they don't fall for the same stuff. They're thinking, what is the risk and what is the reward? But then also they're being clouded by who they're with. So if the person they're with is like, yeah, let's do this, they're going to be more likely to be swayed. So you have to really know if you're a realtor, for instance, or if you're trying to sell solar panels for a house, is it one person making a decision? Are two people making it together? Who's the main decision maker? What's the script for what you do depending on? But it really, really matters. Like for me, I'm one consumer. The way that I buy lip gloss, it's very different than how I might buy a smartphone, right? What I buy when I'm in Vegas is very different than how I spend when I'm not in Vegas, right? So you've got to kind of really nail down who these people are. You can't really rush through it. And what's that trigger? Is it loss aversion? Are they afraid of letting go what they have? Are they risk averse? Are they afraid of taking chances in case, they give their information away and now they have to get hassled with a call? Like maybe they're okay with that, but do they found that risky? It could be change costs, right? Like what do they have to change in their lives in order to suddenly sit there and listen to you talk? Like what is the downside of that? Is it overwhelm, is it more than the upside? Like they're thinking about this. And if you don't know exactly how they're thinking that through, you can make assumptions where, hey, we're just going to offer this thing and they're going to come. And if they don't come, you won't know why. And not only that, but sometimes we feel like we're successful because we've had 10 people sign up, when just tweaking the wording and maybe changing the incentive a little could make 100 people sign up. But we never see what they call that in decision science, the counterfactual. We don't see how things would have turned out if we made that other decision. But decision science can help us kind of estimate, like, did we really do okay?
Did we do good enough? Right out. And what
Yeah.
else could we be doing?
Yeah.
That's powerful. So to the takeaway here at the end, you offer a free courses coming up called the Decision Science for Marketers, right? Is that what's
Yep. The
okay?
basics.
And that's on your website that we showed a moment ago.
Yes. I mean, if
Okay.
you sign up, I will email you the course. You can share it with whoever you want. It's a free course. It's just to get you more familiar with what decision science is. You don't have to do anything. There are no strings attached. The worst that happens is we put you on our newsletter list so that if we have new courses or new blog posts, you'll know about it. You can always unsubscribe. It's what they call a reversible decision. So if you get the course, you hate it, you can always just drop us later. But hopefully you'll find value in it, and you'll want to reach out and talk more. We're open to talking.
Who is your avatar? What kind of like the perfect client that you guys help the most?
Yeah, so we mostly, and I've had a lot of experience and I still do work for the larger companies like Amazon and Google, but the sweet spot for me and my partner, my business partner, our sweet spot is small and mid-sized companies, because too often they don't get the benefit of those really the really kind of sophisticated thinking that, the Amazons and the Googles of the world do. So we're all about the little guy. We like to help, entrepreneurs that are really trying to grow something solid, and that need help understanding the power of marketing, the power of decision science, and the power of mostly of research. And you don't really need to spend that much on research, and you don't need to spend on research at all if you can talk to a decision scientist as a consultant.
So this, to summarize, what you help a business owner do, if I gather, is you kind of help me put me on the right path based on you helping us define what the consumer insights are for my particular product or service.
Yeah.
And then from there, we take what we learn from you and go implement it on our marketing. So it's not like, or are you also an agency that helps take over there and run their marketing, Facebook,
Oh,
email?
we don't execute on marketing. We are good at marketing or using research for marketing strategy. We work with marketers. So when we say on our website, we help marketers get to the point, what we mean is the basic questions most marketers have is, what do I say to influence customers or consumers? Who am I saying it to? And that's really what we find out. Like, given what you sell, what is the psychological profile of the person you should be selling to? And then what are you going to say to them so that they're psychologically motivated to choose you? And that's the information we provide to them so that their marketing teams can go out and actually do that work.
And I imagine that includes maybe even helping them with pricing
Yeah.
to,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We do pricing research too. We do research on incentives. We do research on discounts and promotions. Like, before you decide on the right incentive, we can do some research for you to tell you which way to go, how long to do it for, sometimes we need more than one incentive, right? You don't just have to go out with trips to Vegas. Sometimes, you want to have options, or maybe have one incentive come off the tail of another. They work like
In
ads.
conjunction with each other, and they are
do.
value stacking.
An
Boom, 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 boom.
exactly. Create an
Yeah.
ecosystem of value for them. And yeah, so we give you information so you can make those decisions without rushing into them and not knowing till later, oh crap, we should have done it a different way. That's a lot of money you lose when you do it the wrong way.
Nika, before we wrap it up, any final words of wisdom, or how to specifically contact you if you'd like, or is it go to your website and
Go to the
contact us
website,
page?
the contact page on sparkconsumerinsights.com.
Very good. Well, thank you, Nika. Again, folks, all of the links are in the show notes below. To find her website, click on her contact us page, sign up for the resources. And one more wrap up. If you are in business, you haven't checked out marketingboost.com, go look how you can wow your clients, surprise and delight them with, and we also have a currently free, and that price is going to change any day now. So go get this quickly. We have our masterclass, is a 14-day, 27 video training course to show you exactly how to implement these incentives with a complete blueprint on 4 different campaigns you can launch to help you re-engage clients and get these folks coming paid clients with the use of Marketing Boost incentives. Check out marketingboost.com, free trial, and you can get the free masterclass course. Trust by reviews and automationbooster.com. If you like the content we brought you today, I've got a huge favor to ask of you. One, give us a like down below, maybe a comment in the notes what you think of the show. Give us a review. But more importantly, grab the link here and share this episode with another entrepreneur who might be needing insights. He might be needing, learning how to grow his business. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you again for joining us on the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. There's next episodes right down below. You can click on to watch the next, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.